Alright guys, Ragtag here, the greatest gutter tier gamer on the face of this earth, and today we're going to have a little chat. But before we do, can you put me a comment below please? Right now, just let me know, what is your favourite mode? Is it duos or trios? And don't say solos, I'll talk about that in a second. I really want to know, I want to see what the community thinks, because I think there is a massive mismatch in terms of what I'm seeing and what I think about the two modes. So I'm going to talk about that, but I'm going to start with the addition of duos. That was back in Season 4 when they added Bloodhound TRIOS, I believe, to World's Edge. And yeah, the devs were commenting about solos and duos because obviously the community were asking for both. And David, EA David, on the forums said that duos had a positive effect on the game's health in regard to queue times and gameplay systems, in addition to reinforcing team play. And then when it came to solos, he said, when we introduced solos as a limited time mode last year, we saw it actually negatively impacted the game, especially when it came to new player retention. We've also purposely designed legends and their abilities to complement team play and squad composition, but when played solo, some legend abilities become useless. Oh, I don't know, David. I could get an EMP off in a big, multi-way solo battle. You never, don't count me out. But I know what he was getting at. He's getting that everyone's going to play Pathfinder and just sit at the top of a cliff and pick people off. I understand that. But when it comes to duos, at that time, they were saying it was really good for the player base, the health of the game, and enforcing team play. Isn't that a funny word? When you play solo queue in Apex Legends, you'll be laughing right now thinking, ha, that doesn't exist to me. What games are you playing? Yeah, well, I'm getting the same thing. Now, when you think of what Apex was designed for, they made the architecture, the map, everything about it was made with teams of 3, and that's fine. They obviously wanted the Legends to synergize together. I completely get that. So when it comes to putting 2 people in a squad, it must completely change the flavor of the game in terms of how it works. And that's true, because if you think about it, duos have less sustained fights. It means that when you get third-partied, or when you are the third-partier, those moments are even more brutal. They're quite hard-hitting, and I think it gives the game a faster pace overall. And I have to say, I love it. I think this is an appeal for sweaty, aggressive players. Duos should be a really exciting game mode, and I think for the most part, it probably is. Now, the next thing is in terms of the lobby size. So you've got trios, there's going to be 20 squads of 3, and in duos, 30 squads of 2. But is it just me? I mean, let me know again if you want to pop more than one comment, this is fine, or edit your other one, whatever. Does the map feel too big in duos? Because I have to say, it does to me in World's Edge. Now, if you've been playing since the beginning or near enough back then, you will remember the old days of run gun R99, just literally leg it towards the squad and just run all over them. And when World's Edge was brought out, the charge rifle with it, of course, this idea of long-range play came into it a lot more. You would see these multi-story buildings and all the rest of it, and then people would have to play a little bit more carefully. There was a lot more running over open plains and whatnot, and people complained about the map actually being too big. That was one of the chief complaints, and I never thought that. I thought it was more about learning the areas, but there certainly does seem to be a difference in playing style. And if you disagree with that, then I don't care, because you're wrong, and I will allow that. But what I'm really interested in is the fact that duos in World's Edge feels completely different to me in duos in King's Canyon. And it would appear to me that there would be a simple solution here, because the next thing I'm going to tell you about is the problem. And the problem is the queue time in duos is disgusting. I mean, obviously, prime time is prime time. There's going to be a certain couple of hours in the day or 3 hours in the day where if you click play in that time, you will find a game. But I queue at funny times of day, sometimes late at night, sometimes early in the morning. It really depends, but the queue can take anything from 3 to 8 minutes, sometimes even more than that, depending, and it's not the end of the world. However, imagine waiting 8 minutes only to last 10 seconds. Well, there is another thing, I suppose. If we talk about the player base in general, you see a Wraith on your team in a trio, you know for a fact that there's a 50-50 chance that if they get downed, they're leaving straight away. In duos, it does happen, but my own personal experience is not happening half as much. So there's quite a few reasons why I prefer duos, but I think I prefer duos even more on King's Canyon. So what I would like to see, I don't think the devs would do this, but I think it's a really simple fix. Why don't they just have alternate rotations? So while Trios is on King's Canyon, have Duos on World's Edge. When Trios is on World's Edge, have Duos on King's Canyon. That to me means you're getting the map you want. And perhaps this could repair the terrible, terrible queue times that we're getting right now. The player base, I don't know what's going on. Maybe it's better on console, but on PC it is just a joke. And I was playing Duos last night, and literally just minutes and minutes, I was tabbing out. It feels like I could go and grab my dinner at some points and then come back and the game still won't be popped. And that is a problem. I do believe that Duos is such a good mode. There needs to be a way to incentivize that. I wonder if anything, I mean, I can't imagine it having anything to do with it, but Trio is the default button. You know, when you go into the main game, do you think that people are just clicking that? I don't know, guys. I mean, let me know in the comments. I really do want to know what you're thinking about this, because I don't get it. The other thing I think is both an advantage and a disadvantage is that when you're in duos, your teammate, I think, is easier to track. It makes aggressive play more rewarding and less chaotic, like this kind of idea of nuking a target, you both call it and down it goes. So I think coordination is easier, and when it comes to trios, there's a lot more to factor in. But I have to say, the fun factor in covering, you know, multiple angles on a building with 3 people, I have to say I do prefer that, and that does open up the game to different styles of battles. So whenever I'm queuing up duos, I expect a super fast, super aggressive game, but I don't want it to take 10 years to pop. That's the problem. Perhaps the crossplay, when that's introduced, maybe that will solve it. I'm not 100% sure it would. But as things stand at the moment, there's nothing worse than dropping hot, getting downed and back to the lobby straight away, only to have to queue again. So the queue times, I honestly think, are just massive. Now, here's something that I think is interesting. Because it's harder to keep track of those large multi-way battles in a trio, I mean, don't get me wrong, good players can do it. I honestly just chase flashing lights. I don't know what's going on half the time in these games, but there's more chance of a banner rescue, I think, in trios than there is in duos. In duos, it's kind of, you're a full send, you're all the way in, or you're not. It's not often that, you know, it's just going to be one person sniping and the other person going in. It doesn't really work like that. So it does feel to me like in trio, the synergy and the teamwork and the possibilities of one person doing a daring rescue. I love those, by the way. That's why I make videos on this game. I think I would have stopped making the videos long time ago had it not been for those those great escapes and whatnot with the knockdown shield. You're the last person standing and you go around a corner. I think that is absolutely awesome. Something that's happened to me quite a few times if I've been swapping back and forth between trios and duos is definitely a little bit of confusion. And whilst there shouldn't be, you click the mode, you know what you're getting yourself into, but there is that little bit of culture shock, and I've spoken to others who have felt exactly the same, that they just struggle to acclimatise to this new surrounding. And a squad of 2 feels like you'll be 2v3, even though you know you clicked duos, you were there when you did it, but it still has that sort of moment of, I don't know what I'm doing, there's only 2 of us, and that's largely because you had that Wraith in your team that left right at the start. So a lot of the time in trios, you are 2v3. The other thing I was thinking that has definitely crossed my mind multiple times, it's difficult to really be objective about this one because I am horrible at this game a lot of the time, and that is that it feels to me as if better players are attracted to duos, which means I find myself getting rinsed and sent back to the lobby much more than I do in trios. That may or may not be completely accurate, but that's how it definitely feels. I'm sure the queue times will get something to do with that. I know some of you are going to be watching this thinking, what are you on about, mate? I get my game in 10 seconds. Well, good for you. At least we're not in Overwatch where it takes like 15 minutes to queue as a DPS. So when I sit and I try to, because I'm not scripting this by the way, I'm trying to think in my head which I prefer. Ultimately, there are bits I like better for, you know, for duos and things I certainly like more for trios. But I find that duos tests my mechanical skills a lot more. It's not exactly going to be loads of gatekeeping, and I'm sure people do sit at the edge of the ring and pop off the occasional person, but you can set up these defenses to stop enemy squads from coming through in trios. So I feel that duos kind of eradicates the complexity of having to think outside the box. What will this squad do? What will that squad do? And you just run at them. So I feel like both are very good for your overall game and your skill set. But I have to say, in a pre-made, I think trios is the better option because the possibilities are just limitless. Well, there maybe is a limit to them, but it does feel to me that you can get a lot more enjoyment from various situations, whereas Duos has a very set agenda and off you go. Not that it's not enjoyable, I just feel that when I'm thinking about what have I had the most fun in this game, it has been the trio pre-mades, when you're trying out lots of different things, and it's, you know, partly to do with multiple heroes that can help out with mobility and do these daft honey trap things where you can put a portal back in and find someone get electrocuted and gas trapped at the same time and grenaded, and then setting up ramparts, walls and things, and I think it just gets those creative juices flowing. I think that's where I'm going with it. However, when I'm solo queuing, I actually have found duos to be a lot more kind of amenable. I've met some very nice people and added them to my friends list via duos. It just seems to be easier to get on the same page as someone. Of course, everyone's opinions and experiences are completely different, so I'm totally interested to hear what you all have been feeling and thinking about these two modes. But yeah, that's mine. So it's trios for the pre-mades and duos for solo queue. Maybe that's a bit of a weird one, let me know yours. Alright guys, that's going to do it for today, and I'll see if I can get you a beautiful tale for Wednesday. I hope you liked the Assassin's Creed video put out the other day, the Vikings versus Spartan. Yeah, so anyway, I'm laughing because I make the dumbest content. Alright, take it easy, catch you in the next one, later.